Indian economy. Here the term Indian, when the term Indian is there, it means how Indian. How Indian means the face of Indian, how we will Bharati, as we got some, privileges that time. So after 1957, in 1949, we were privileged with the Indian constitution, and the development of the economy is totally dependent on the nature of the state. How the nature of state always determine the factor Indian economy or the concept of economy. If the state is democratic, the concept of economy will change. If the concept of if the state is democratic or non-democratic, so it always changes accordingly. So we'll start our introduction as that was given in NCRT Indian book. So the primary objective of this book, this chapter, Indian Economic Development, is to familiarize you people with the basic features of the Indian economy and its development as it is today in the aftermath of independence we are talking. So, however, it is equally important to know something about the country's economic past. Even we have learned about its present state and future prospects. So, economy means basic. The concept of basic economy is to develop the phase, to develop the state, to develop the nature of the person, of the state, of the society, and to intervene the state between the man and the economical terms, economic ideologies, economical values, economical that process. So economics is always being a process. So we'll look at the state of Indian economy prior to the country's independence. Independence means how we got our freedom from Britishers. You know it very well. The before 15th August, we had another different nature of state. After the independence, we had another nature of the state. So there were some differences, really. So from an idea of various considerations that shaped India's post-independent development strategy. So, structure of India's present economy is not just of current making, right? So, we'll discuss about the economical system, economical procedure is totally different at it was that time. So, it has the Indian economy has its roots steeped in history, particularly in the period when India was under British rule. So, we have two branches before independence and after independence. So, nature of the state may be changed, nature of the polity may be changed, but economical procedure or economical development is a long procedure, it's a long process. You cannot change it immediately, right? So this is the thing which can't change immediately. The sole purpose of the British colonial rule in India was to reduce the country to being a raw material supplier, right? So before independence, we were a great supplier of raw material. So raw material supplier, raw material supplier, as it is if it is given by some colonial writers, some nationalist writers, some nationalist economists that we were raw material supplier. So that time we were also processing something, but we were mainly big supplier of raw material. After the independence, of the long period of the independence, we also were producing, or we were also exporting our raw material also, like iron we just exported to Japan, and then we received steel as a result of that total total process. So, you know, calling a nation is the big supplier of raw materials means we had some processing units also, but mainly we had the big business of raw material uh, exporting. So, being a raw material supplier for Great Britain's, so raw material supplier, that was the concept before 1947, but it you can calculate it from after 1757 to 1947. There were many changes accordingly. So if there were processing units, there were raw materials system, there the, raw material suppliers were there, many more things were there. So the concept of raw material supplier is not big thing, but the historian economics wanted to emphasize us on the matter that we Indian had no processing unit that time. We were only supplying nation. We were supplier nation that time. So that was the concept occurred at that system, and understanding the it also focus of exploitative nature of this relationship between Indian and the Britishers, and this relationship is essential for any assessment of the kind and level of development which the Indian economy has been able to attain over the last 7.5 decades. So that was the phase. Now we'll discuss about low level of economic development under the colonial rule. Low level of low level of economic development economic development under colonial rule, under colonial rule. This is the concept. So low level of economic development comprises of some particular topics, some particular subjects, some particular phases, like we had we some more exports, had we more money, more processing units, more our cultural reforms, our domestic economics. So more is the concept when we compare this economics to British economy or the world economy. That is the thing. So India had an independent economy before the advent of British rule. We are talking about before the 1600. So we have our independent economy. So we had independent economy. It means we exported at our own will, we imported at our own will. What we get, we utilized in our nation. That is the sentiment of this statement. And we had to pay our taxes and many more things to the state, Indian state. That is the concept before the before the independent of our country. And independent economy before the advent of British rule meant the Britishers had not any special power. They were just the totally merchant. They were traders only. They had no state power. They had no special power to rule over us. They had no special power over our farmers, our peasants. They had no special power that time. As they came into India, they just became the large exporters of Indian raw material, Indian processed material to Europe and other nations also. So that is the thing. So though agriculture was the main source of livelihood for the most of the people, agriculture was the main source. So Agriculture was the main source. Agriculture was main source of Indians. Main source of Indian, right? By getting these raw things from this agriculture, many more nations were able and they became capable to process these things into another form of product. So the country's economy was characterized by various kind of manufacturing activities. That was the thing. India was particularly well known for its handicraft industries. So we have handicraft, handicrafts industries. There are two things. We had only agriculture as the primary source of our economy. We have some handicraft industry. We could export to Europe and other nations. So that was the form of economy in India and ruled by the Britishers, right? But when we are talking about before the advent of Britishers, the phase was totally changed, but the status and the system of people was not merely changed that time. The nature of economy was not merely changed, but as you know, this is the concept by which we'll try to understand the basic concept of economy. And when we talk about handicraft industry, it means we'll talk about the cotton and silk textiles. That depends upon cotton and silk textile, right? Silk textile, cotton and silk that work together, and metal and precious stone works. Third thing was metals and precious stone, precious stone. So we got three things here. Another thing that these products enjoyed a worldwide market based on a reputation of the fine quality of material used and the high standards of craftsmanship seen in all imports from India. So that was the thing that our product always had a great reputation. So this is not to write, but I am telling you how the Indian articles were famous uh, in various countries. Now we'll talk about the textile industry in Bengal. Textile, textile industry, industry of Bengal. Textile industry of Bengal. So there is a muslin is the type of cotton textile or muslin. Muslin or muslin is the cotton textile, the type of cotton textile. Cotton textile, which had its origin in Bengal, particularly places in and around Dhaka. Nowadays, Dhaka is situated in Bangladesh, but that time Dhaka was situated in Bengal. So, it was spelled during the pre-independent period as Dhaka or Dhaka. Now the capital city of Bengal is known. So, Dhaka muslin or muslin, Dhaka muslin is known as the name of Dhaka, right? The finest variety of muslin was called malmal. So malmal is a type of muslin or Deccan muslin. Sometimes foreign travelers also used to refer to its as Malmal Shahi or Malmal Khas. So Malmal Shahi and Malmal Khas. These two varieties, these two varieties are named by travelers, foreign travelers, right? So this was the place where Malmal and other cotton was found there. So that was won by, right? So this is the thing, the Malmal, how Muslim became Malmal, and high quality of Malmal became high quality of Malmal became Shahi Malmal and Khas Muslim. The economic policies pursued the colonial government in India were concerned more with the protection and promotion of economical interest of their home industry than with the development of Indian economy. That was the thing. The colonial government in India were concerned with the protection and promotion of economic interest of their home country, but their home country was Britain. So that was the thing. They were not concerned with Indian economy. So such policies brought about a fundamental change in the structure of Indian economy, transforming the country into supplier of raw material and consumer of finished industrial products from Britain. So how India became India became the trading partner, but when we use trading partner, it means British concern or British interest. So we became raw materials supplier, and what we received the finished industrial product. So consumer finished industrial material. It might be noted that on the availability of raw material, Britishers, they operated and they established their factory system in England. So that was the supply of raw materials to Britain and their nation, neighboring state. And after finishing, we received that particular finished material from Britain, and we used to buy, and we loses our money twice. One in the form of raw material, another how we spent our money of getting purchased. So obviously the colonial government never made any sincere attempt to estimate Indians' national and per capita income. That was the thing, that they never made any effort. So some individual attempts which were made to measure such incomes yielded conflicting the inconsistent result. Among the notable estimators like Dadabhai Naroji, William Digby, Findlay Shiraz, V.K.R.V. Rao, and many more persons were there. So who were the person who tried to calculate or estimates the national or per capita income? As Dadabhai Naroji, another William Digby. You know William Digby? Comment if you know William Digby. And Findlay Shiraz was another person. V.K.R.V. Rao. So these were the persons who tried to estimate estimate what national and per capita income, national and per capita income. So that was the effort made by the individual, not any governmental or institutional calculation or estimation, because Britishers were not so ready to establish our economy. They had concern their own economical matter. So many more persons there. So it was Rao whose estimates during the colonial period was considered very significant. So Rao's calculation became very significant. You may use as the estimate the Indian economy of that, but that was the individual effort, right? So that was a very significant effort, significant estimates, right? So that estimate was prepared by Rao. And however, most institutes did find the country's growth of aggregate real output during the first of half of the 20th century. When we talk about the first of the 20th century, first half of the 20th century, it means phase from 1900 to 1950. You may consider like this, that you must know when we talk about the phases, the real calculation of the phase is like this, right? So when we talk about the first half of the 20th century, so there that was the less than 2% coupled with the half percent growth in per capita output per year. We are talking about the first half of the 20th century, right? 2% approximate. When we talk about agriculture sector, agriculture sector, what is real meaning of agricultural sector, right? So India's economy under British rule remained fundamentally agrarian. About how fundamentally agrarian? Because 85% people were indulged into that agricultural activities, right? 85% of the people at that time we are talking about. 85% people were mostly living in villages, right? Villages. And most of the people were involved in agricultural economy. They were indulged in agricultural economy. So 85% country's population lived mostly in villages and derived livelihood directly or indirectly from agriculture. However, despite being the occupation of such a large population, the agricultural system, and you may know the agricultural sector continued to experience stagnation, and not infrequently unusual deterioration. Agriculture productivity became low, and how it became low? Because many more people were indulged more than requirement, many more people were indulged in that sector. In absolute terms, the sector experienced some growth due to expansion of aggregate area under the cultivation. That was the thing. In absolute terms, the sector experienced some growth due to the expansion of aggregate area under cultivation. It means cultivational might be depend upon the expansion of the aggregate area of, you can say, the expansion of land. It provides land to cultivate, to provide land to for farming also. So this stagnation in the agriculture sector was caused mainly because of the various system of land cultivation. Various various land settlement system were there. So that was introduced by the colonial government, land settlement system, right? Land, and how the land settlement system and why the land settlement system was introduced, that is also a big question. Land settlement. So that was introduced by Lord Cornwallis, like when you say permanent settlement system, Malwari system, Rayatwari system, many more system was there. This is the form of zamindari system, and they could levy some taxes and they could get some taxes from the people. So there were some forms of land settlement. So that were introduced by the colonial government. Colonial government. Right? Colonial government means British government. Particularly under the zamindari system, which was implemented in the Bengal presidency, comprising part of India's present-day eastern states. So, zamindari system. Zamindari system. Zamindari system. Zamindari system, that was that was implemented in the Bengal presidency. You must write Bengal presidency. When we say Bengal presidency, it means that state directly ruled by the governor and the governor general. When we say Bengal, the Bengal was comprises of Bihar, Odisha, Bengal, some parts of Assam. So that was most wide area. So zamindari system, in zamindari system, most of the zamindar had to collect the taxes from the peasants and farmers and to deposit these things to the British government. So zamindar were totally mediators between the government and the people, you may say it. So they also got some police power, they got some judiciary power, they got some collecting taxes power. So many more powers were also given to those zamindars. So the profit occurring out of the agriculture sector went to the zamindar instead of the cultivators. It means the zamindar got so much profit rather than cultivators. So that is the phase when the cultivators was deprived from getting much money. So however, a considerable number of zamindars, and not just the colonial government, did nothing to improve the condition of agriculture, because they had two concerns, because they had to move their own country's economy, and they got some zamindars to protect the empire as assistant. So there were some interest of the zamindar, like zamindar was only to collect rent regardless of the economic condition of the cultivators, as I told. So zamindar had to collect the taxes, right? So later this system, collecting the taxes system, just became you the district magistrate of sub-divisional district magistrate. This concept was abolished, or you may say this concept was transformed into district magistrateship. So collection of taxes, that was the thing. So you may know that cultivation never got some good condition in that phase. So this caused immense misery and social tension among the latter. To a very great extent, the terms of revenue settlement were also responsible for the zamindars adopting such an attitude. Dates for depositing specific sums of revenue were fixed. So why this sum revenue was fixed? Because government had to calculate the total income, and they just never wanted to focus on that particular administrative proceedings. So revenue, what is the meaning of revenue? When you say revenue, you always say the income of the state or the government. So it comprises, right? So this is the thing. So how the cultivators face this very bad situation, how they were deprived to enjoy their luxurious life. It was not there because neither zamindars nor Britishers were ready to improve the condition of cultivators. The cultivators were totally sufferers. And later this system, this phase became the revolution phase. After the independence, you may consider before 2050, many more Maoist, many more leftist. I cannot call this system leftist, but many more terrorists were responsible for this, and many terminologies were provided them to secure from terrorism, but they were terrorizing us. So that was the phase. Us means at that state. So beside these low levels of technology, lack of irrigation facilities, and negligible use of fertilizers all added up to aggravate the plight of the farmers, and the contributed how this contributed to the dismal level of agriculture productivity. So there was, of course, some evidence of relatively higher yield of cash crop in certain areas of the country due to commercialization of agriculture. So many more things were there. Which kind of point you noted? That lack of irrigation. First point, they never got the ample quantity of water, right? Negligible use of fertilizers. Negligible. How we are saying negligible? Because negligible the things is they had not a bit fertilizing system. So use of fertilizers, and what? Low level of technology. Low level of technology. What was the result of these things? What was the result of these three things? It's all added up to aggravate the plight of farmers. The plight of the farmers. That was the thing which occurred this time. So, and later it contributed to the dismal level of agriculture productivity. There was, of course, some evidence of relatively higher yield of cash crop, but that was the phase when cash crops in certain areas of the country due to commercialization of agriculture. So here we end this system, this chapter here, and we'll continue later. So please be with us. Thank you so much.